It's pretty tricky who you're going to trust because there is no copyright on titles. And it's a really gray area for students doing MAs and PhDs and things. But no one's ever stole one of my poems in 40 years. I don't know what that tells you. And I did edit a literary magazine that won prize. For 3 years we had the best Canadian short story. But only once did we ever find someone who stole a poem and put their name on it. Someone sent us a poem by Lynn Lifshin, who's an American poet. I think she writes 10 a day because she's just everywhere. But, you know, if you see a certain style, and one, I didn't spot it, one of my, we were always a group of editors, one of them spotted it, and we wrote to this young man, who I don't think was 20 yet, and said, "Don't ever send to us again." I'm sure that didn't cause much trouble. But anyways, it is a problem. So you have to investigate what awards or acknowledgement or payment there is on academic papers. Very often on a certain topic, because every year I'm sure there's another 100 books come out on Shakespeare, and some of them are then amalgamated and put into books that are in public use or available to the public. In that case, if you're one of 6 or less, if there's 4, 5, or 6 in a book, you would get some percentage of that. And that's very often why you see 4 friends getting together if you're poets. It's hard to get 4 novels in the same book. But if you're a short story writer or a poet, get 4 people together and get a nicely published book, and it will go to public libraries, and you can get some, you know, have a theme or some reason why you're together. You know, then you can get a partial credit on this public lending right, books in libraries.
Are any of these great fortunes available retroactively?
Not in that, they won't pay for back years, but I found it absolutely shocking. Some people that write children's books, you know, they might have, and we moved that up to, it has to be as many pages as, because 50% goes to the illustrator and 50% to the writer for the picture books. And there was great discussions on this because there were people that were doing alphabet books. Absolute clever idea. So they have a little 8 pages, I mean a tiny chapbook, but with a nice color cover on letter A. Well, then they had 26 books. With about as fewer pages than you had in your 100-page novel or something. Not quite, but you can see, and I think they've changed the ruling on credits for children's books, that they have to be at least a 24-page chapbook and of literary value. So, as we were all going to dash out, and I was going to do a number book 1 to 100. You know, there's always people trying to push as much as possible. But those things, I mean, are there more questions about these groups? I mean, you know how to get a hold of them now. What, you just like when you're looking at your marketing, trying to think if there are any other jobs or places where you could gain something. Are there any of the pieces of paper that are stuck anywhere in terms of moving around? So everybody's figured out the mechanics of the money, what they're able to get.
Have you explored the online publishing, like Amazon and this?
Not personally, but some of the people that I've helped with, I edit publications. know Alfred Cool, who's at Camel River, has put his third book on Amazon. He just started writing on fire when he retired, and he's got 5 written now.
They
In
take
about-
55%.
Hmm?
They take 55%.
Some of them, not all of them.
Amazon.
Okay, the public libraries are in.
But how much do you have to spend to get them started?
Well, I have a film, so it's, I have documentaries, it's, you know, it's like, they only require 20 units at a time to start. And then, like, you send them the original, they'll go through the shipping from there, but you can send them the original shipping.
Right.
And then they'll refill, and you kind of have to monitor it yourself, because if it goes out of stock too long, then they take it off.
Yeah. So there's lots of aspects about who you're doing the digital or internet publishing with. But I think if people have something that they know how to phrase it so that people learn their names somewhere outside of Amazon, they're aware of them, and that you have a topic and your description of your book so that a certain lot of your thinking it's your own marketing and your own promotion to actually make a start. And probably one of the best things is making sure that you write reviews by at least 3 of your friends. How many of you have ever asked a friend to review if you're doing digital publishing? You have to start having a review there. If you have a new book there and no one has ever reviewed it, it doesn't appear as if it's ever sold a copy. And people read the reviews and then they get intrigued whether they're going to agree or disagree with the reviewer, so they might actually read it. And some people actually pay to get the digital or the tablet format on whatever gadget they have, and then they decide they actually want a paper copy. So some people actually do both, but a lot of it is in this, what we're looking at, the self-assessment. What kind of a writer are you? What kind of a product are you producing? It gives you some idea of who might want to read what you're writing. Because there's all those questions on page 1. I don't know how many, whether you want to talk about that kind of, how you position yourself in the market, I think is the terminology. But because I write poetry, I wouldn't list with Amazon, but strangely enough, there's lots of me on Amazon. Someone at some time collected the 15 years, which was 45 copies, because we only came out triannually when I did the literary magazine from the 70s. And they're on there. And so they mentioned my name as the editor, as well as back copies of my own work. So people do invest in people when they bring out their works, and they just pick a few favorites and they hang on them for 10 or 20 years, and then they put them on Amazon. And so that buyer, who may or may not have ever read it, can then decide, well, it's out of print now, I can sell it for $20 or $30.
Something that might be of interest to you folks is, on Sunday, I was at the Books on the Bay down in Bellingham Festival,
Yes.
and there was a vendor down there has developed a system whereby you can activate your website, and using Scrivener, you can convert your manuscripts to either Mobi or EPUBs or
Right.
whatever, and you can install a button on your website whereby somebody reads the summary or whatever of your book. They can click on the button that they want to buy it, and the sale will go through PayPal, and the money will be deposited in your account. And it's kind of an innovative
Yeah.
system.
Well, my textbook is now really a JPEG. So if somebody puts $10 in my PayPal, I can just email it to them.
Yeah.
must be other questions in here that people are wondering about. And there's some areas that you want help with in terms of being a business. I've already made up my mind, you all respect your own words and you want other people to read them. And maybe interact with them. How many want to meet their readers in person?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
What is the situation with material that was written decades ago for publications of which one was a staff member?
You mean whether you own words when
Yeah.
you worked somewhere else and not in your own office, your own home?
Well,
Yeah.
I wrote and published material in newspapers and magazines that I worked for.
You would have to take it up with the company. Most of them would say, well, that's fine, John, just go ahead. But I would clarify it, because I haven't got copies of it to actually look at it. Because if you're working for someone, your weekly or monthly pay, they consider they own all your words while you're there. But decades later, it's a good thing to ask. In terms of, I want to quote a book, I'm doing a book, say, of good editing styles, and I want to quote someone as an example I wanted to show this is a very well-written piece, and I take a couple of paragraphs, because you can start getting in trouble if you quote more than 50 words. And in songs and some things, people complain even with much fewer than that. But the copyright stays with the author as long as they're alive, and in Canada at the moment, they are the inheritors.